In basketball, emotions run hot, but few players channel that fire the way Caitlin Clark does. When the game gets physical or the refs stop calling fouls, her reaction comes fast. You see it in her face, hear it in her voice, and feel it in how hard she fights back. These moments show the weight she carries and how deeply she wants to win. These are Caitlin Clark's most heated moments on the court, and each one burns hotter than the one before. Let us start with the moment that showed just how fast things can spiral when Clark is under pressure. On January 10th, facing the Purdue Boilermakers, she walked onto the floor with a focus that was hard to miss. You could feel it in her body language, in how cleanly she moved, and in the way her eyes tracked the floor. She did not need to say anything. Her purpose was clear from the first tip. But that kind of intensity draws attention. Just seconds in, her teammate Kylie Furbach takes an obvious shove. A foul anyone watching could see. The referee waves it off. Clark reacts instantly, yelling in disbelief and demanding the call. The response she gets is a technical. No warning, no grace period, just the cost of showing emotion on a night when the calls were already going the wrong way.
Kicking it out, Evans fakes the three, takes the two, and knocks it down.
When that kind of treatment starts in the opening minutes, it sets a tone that only gets harder to shake. For Clark, that pressure does not ease off. It piles up, and it did not stay in that one game either. It followed her everywhere. On March 23rd, during Iowa's matchup against Holy Cross, it showed up again. After a sharp steal in the backcourt, Clark pushed the ball up the floor looking to make something happen. Before she could get going, a wall of defenders closed in around her. They used their size and physicality to crowd her off the ball. No foul was called. With no space and no whistle, the frustration cracked through.
Met with some contact. Clark is upset she gets teed up.
Yeah.
The latter part of the game.
Yeah, you could tell.
Clark reacted right there on the floor, bouncing the ball off her own head while voices from the sideline called for a technical. But this was not a random emotional burst. It was the result of non-stop contact, constant defensive pressure, and foul calls that never came. For Clark, it was becoming a pattern she could not escape. And that pattern did not end when she left college. It showed up in the pros just as fast. On July 17th, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Dallas Wings, Clark found herself isolated and under pressure again. With 45 seconds left on the clock, she pushed the ball up the floor as the only player from her team moving with urgency. She ran into a triple team and still no foul was called. She tried to create something out of nothing. The play fell apart and so did her composure.
Early, it forces the defense to spread out. It opens it up for 22 to go to work. Clark with the steal. Has it knocked loose. Working on the smaller defender, triple team.
After the play, she walked toward the sideline, grabbed a water bottle, and launched it across the court. The frustration that had been sitting just below the surface for months finally came out. And just when it felt like the pressure had reached its limit, it went even further. On February 25, 2024, in a high-stakes game between Iowa and Ohio State, Clark found herself in another flashpoint, this time with guard J.C. Sheldon. Midway through the game, Clark was hit on the arm in a clear foul. Sheldon grabbed her left hand right in front of the officials. Then a second hit came in the same sequence. Still no whistle. Still nothing.
Inside.
Getting fouled on back-to-back plays with no call coming each time is the kind of thing that wears a player down fast. It adds weight to frustration that has already been building all season long. But physicality was not the only thing testing her. On June 1, 2024, during a WNBA game between the Indiana Fever and the Chicago Sky, the tension between Clark and Angel Reese hit a new high. Reese, who has never held back when facing Clark, delivered a hard shove using her arm and elbow that sent Clark straight to the floor.
But right now, they're just thinking about winning this ball game. Clark quickly gets it up court, then got it knocked away. Odyssey cradles it.
The contact looked like a standard foul from a distance, but up close it was not subtle at all. The refs let it go. The crowd responded. And Reese followed it up with taunting that pushed the temperature even higher. Moments like this have become a regular part of Clark's WNBA experience. She gets hit, she gets back up, and she responds with her game rather than her words. Every time someone knocks her down, she comes back harder. But physical play was not the only test. Sometimes the officials themselves brought her closest to the edge. On January 10, 2025, during Iowa's game against Purdue, Clark pulled off one of the hardest shots in the sport, a clean half-court buzzer beater. According to a study published in the Journal of Sports Science, there is only about a 1 in 100 chance of making that shot. It should have been a highlight for the ages. Instead, it was wiped off the board. The referee called a foul on Clark just before she released, taking away what could have been one of the most memorable moments of the season. She was already deep into her shooting motion when the call came. None of it mattered. The basket did not count, and Clark's frustration poured out immediately. Moments like those kept stacking up. She was not just competing against defenders. She was fighting for basic fairness and sometimes just to be seen clearly. Missed calls were no longer surprising. They were becoming routine. On May 20, 2025, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Connecticut Sun, Clark ran into yet another situation where she could not win. She was bumped clearly on the drive. Then, as she lost the ball, her arm was grabbed. 2 separate fouls on the same possession. The officials let both go without a sound.
Welcome back to Dallas. Caitlin Clark upset with herself.
This time Clark did not hold it together. She turned directly toward the referee and let it out, visibly furious and not hiding it.
With 7:36 to play in the fourth, and she hasn't shot the ball well. Scrambled, tied up. Sheldon, Clark.
Lip readers had no trouble following what she said. There was nothing vague about it. Clark had hit her limit, and the whole building knew it.
Kicking it out, Evans fakes the 3, takes the 2, and knocks it down. 50-50?
50-50.
And it is exactly this kind of repeated treatment that keeps feeding Clark's most heated moments. One of the most explosive came on August 18, 2025, during Indiana's game against the Seattle Storm. After missing a shot, her frustration came out physically. She slapped the backboard, padding out of anger, and the whistle blew immediately. She was handed a technical foul for conduct the officials considered disrespectful to the game.
Her field goal percentages actually go up.
And just when it looks like the pressure might ease up, another moment arrives to test her all over again. On May 30, 2025, during a game between the Indiana Fever and the Seattle Storm, Clark had just knocked down a 3 and was making her way back on defense when Victoria Vivians drove a forearm directly into her chest. Up to that point, Clark had worked hard to keep herself in check through everything around her. But for many fans watching, that hit felt like the moment the line had been crossed, and enough was genuinely enough.
Trying to draw the foul. Referee signaled to count it.
Oh my.
What's the verdict?
After that foul call on Aaliyah, but this one I think is...
This time she did not stand alone. Her teammates stepped in and defended her, making it one of the rare moments where the full weight did not land only on her. But Clark's battles do not end when the buzzer sounds. Off the court, she faces constant scrutiny, uneven treatment, and a steady stream of criticism that comes simply from being one of the most visible players in the game. The pressure to stay composed never goes away. You can see her working to hold it together, likely aware at every moment that she is being watched and judged. Even her own father has been spotted stepping in and asking her to dial it back.
Comes off a stagger on the weak side, but she comes off a pin down here, wide open.
Victoria Vivians, an old Indiana. But if they're open, she will find them. Martin commits the foul. Clark thought that.
But there are still moments when no amount of composure is enough to contain it. And in those moments, Caitlin Clark shows exactly who she is. With every camera pointed at her and tight defense coming from all directions, the stakes never drop. Sometimes that defense crosses a line. Sometimes it looks deliberate. But what separates her is not just the skill. It is how she responds when everything around her reaches a breaking point. She does not step back. She locks in tighter. The energy around her shifts. The crowd leans forward. And the game starts to move in her direction. That is what makes Caitlin Clark impossible to forget. If you enjoyed these moments, hit like, subscribe, and drop a comment telling us which one had you jumping out of your seat. See you in the next one.